Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Back from the Super Bowl, back with this guy. I don't think we've had a conversation since the last time the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl. Dennis Koulatsos joins us from Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. My man, what's going on out there, man? It's baseball season. That's what they say, Dan.
Yeah, I'm halfway reading the book Astro Ball per your recommendation. So
you really are.
I am. I'm trying to get into this thing because I'm trying to become a better, more knowledgeable baseball fan, so I can keep up with great guys like yourself and Luke.
Why is that?
Baseball.
What's the upside for you on this?
Well, a lot of people love the Orioles still. A lot of people love baseball, and look, whether it's hot stove baseball you want to talk about, and the spring training with the pitchers and the catchers reporting early. I'd like to get into that conversation because I fancy myself as a ultimate sports fan, so I'd like to have some knowledge about everything that we talk about.
Well, you've been very feisty about baseball, and I got into this with Luke, right? Because when the Frank Robinson thing happened, and maybe we won't even talk Ravens in this segment then. I don't know. I mean, Steve Bisciotti hasn't said anything. I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. It's going to be my punchline, at the end of every segment I do, saying whenever Steve Bisciotti announces that press conference, we'll get it to you first on the WNST text service brought to you by... I don't think it's coming, by the way. But all that being said, let's stay on baseball since your heart is into Astro Ball. And in the middle of last week, I was literally, I was somewhere on York Road, and I got a text, and Frank Robinson died. And I was just out in Timonium Drive. I think I was at Michael. I don't even know where I was. I was out working. And I got it, and I thought, whew, right? I thought, man, what he represented for my dad and for baseball and for all of our love of baseball. And then I started to think about, wow, what's happened the last 30 years? And how were my interactions with Frank? And how many did I have? And, why did I love baseball? And I remember Frank as a player. I saw him as the California Angels designated hitter in 1973 and 74 because I loved Bobby Valentine. And I begged my father to take me to see Bobby Valentine play. And he played on the same team. And my dad explained to me who Frank Robinson was right then. And then after that, of course, he came in with the Indians in 75 and 76. I distinctly remember going to an Indians-Orioles game that Frank Robinson was the manager of. And my dad explained to me who Frank... And then, Frank managed the 89 team, and I got to know Frank. And so, the Frank story really kind of shakes you a little bit as an old-line Baltimore fan. I think it does anyway.
Well, it really does. And I studied the man for a minute because, when he became a manager, his first stint, he didn't have success because he was too hard on the players. He expected every player to be Frank Robinson. He expected every player to play like him, to have the same intensity, the same athletic ability, and that's why he failed. So his second stint he was much more successful because by that time he had learned that there's only one Frank Robinson, right? So although he could push the players, they just weren't what he was, which was a Hall of Fame, one of the all-time great baseball players in history.
Well, if someone wanted to be, I think the word is pejorative or, mean toward Frank Robinson, they would say, well, or to any player of his ilk, such a great player, hard to be Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, right? Hard to be Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson. And I think that, look, I heard that my whole life, right? Hard to be a great player and a great manager. Ozzie Newsome would be a great example, right, of a guy who's Hall of Fame in both cases, wasn't the head coach, but was a leader. But that was always one of the weird knocks on Frank, right, in my lifetime. Now, keep in mind, Dan, I was born in 68, right? I was raised in an Archie Bunker household, and I'll be talking more about that, for the rest of my life and how, that affects your purview of the world in a lot of ways. I've been on the couch with Dr. Melfi. And I would just say this on Frank, man. I was 5 years old when Frank came into my life. He was playing for the California Angels. Then he was managing for the Indians. Then he was managing for the Giants. And I distinctly remember him having some good and bad times there. And then he came to manage the Orioles in a time that was kind of glorious, right? The 89 season. And then he was a general manager. And then he kind of got thrown out. And he didn't get along with Angelos. And he didn't get along with a lot of people. And I did research on this. And this is the first time I've ever talked about this on the air, okay? So I want to unpeel the onion. Dennis Koulatsos here, because sometimes I get on your couch when I'm on your show. This is kind of neat, Den. Did you see the picture that I shared of Luis Aparicio and Milton Berle and myself and Milton Berle?
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Great picture.
So
Great
that picture happened, by the way, because I Googled Luis Aparicio, Frank Robinson image, photo, pic, thinking somewhere, like you're in the WNST studio every Thursday, right? When you come in this Thursday, look to the left. There's a Wild Bill Hagee motif above the staircase. Next to the staircase, there's a giant picture of the Orioles infield. I believe it's 67, 68. It's before, so it's Boog, Davey Johnson, Aparicio, and Brooks, and they all have their gloves in. When you go into the studio on Thursday, then take that picture, take a picture of the picture for me, and tweet that up, because Luis is in that picture. And I'm thinking, like, is there a Frank Luis picture of them drinking champagne in the clubhouse, or anything, just because I wanted to just see it, you know what I mean? Because I thought, like, I knew Frank, and, Frank was a difficult, personality for a guy who had a ponytail in 1992 that you famously saw Brad Pennington cut off. Did you ever see that my hair was that long, Dan?
Yeah, didn't recognize you. That was a wild look.
So the sharing video thing paints a whole new motif of my life, Dan, right?
Absolutely does, yeah.
So, Frank Robinson, I remember him calling me out on strikes in 1992. I had a ponytail then, a very long ponytail then. And he called me out on that 3-2 pitch, which, dude, it was outside. It was not a strike. But I later told Luke, and this is interesting, it was the leadoff batter in the beginning of the game, right? We were the visiting team. Schmuck was pitching for the print team. I was a little bit of a traitor because I had been at the paper, right? And now I was on the radio, so I was on the broadcast team. So they called me a ringer because I was 23 and could play baseball, right? So my wife chuckles at all that, but I'm like, of the people out on the field that day, I could play, right? Because I was 23 and still had knees and like all that stuff. And I was a catcher, so I love baseball. And I think Frank was trying to set the tone for the strike zone. You know what I mean? Because Frank was umpiring from behind the and I think he was just widening the zone, right, for the game's purposes. But Frank, I saw him many times after that. I told Torrey Smith a great story about him. But Frank, to me, when I went back and looked at this, I could not find a picture of Louie and Frank. And then I started Googling Louie stories. Now, look, man, I'm 50 years old. I'm a big boy, right? I never ask myself why Luis Aparicio was in Baltimore. But the only reason I'm in Baltimore, okay, is because Luis Aparicio's in Baltimore. So I'm having a Melfi moment here with you, right? So I don't know everything that happened that brought your family from Greece here. Whatever that series of events, we all know a lot of Cubans are here based on series of events. A lot of Jewish Americans are here based on series of events. A lot of African Americans are here. If we watched Roots and know the story of so we have all these stories. But, I'm here because of baseball, literally. And Louis got traded to the Orioles because he was a malcontent. Apparently, a legendary malcontent in Chicago who wanted money, didn't get along with that. And I didn't know all of this until literally this week, okay, literally. So I started doing some work, and I knew why they ran Frank out of Cincinnati, right? And I read in Lords of the Realm, so it wasn't based on race, right? With Frank was uppity and like all of that. It wasn't race. Louis was Venezuelan and got himself run out of Chicago. It was about what color. It was green, I think, then, as I remember it. Steve Carlton, he and the Bush family hated each other, and it really lent to why Steve Carlton never got along with the media or any. He was such a malcontent in St. Louis because he was great and he wanted a raise, and they thought of the worst place they could send him. They sent him to the Phillies where they were going to lose 120 games. So they punished him by sending him to the Phillies over like $3,000. You know what I mean? It was literally how the Lords operated, that if you were whatever, a malcontent, if you wanted more money and you were loud about it, they sent you to Baltimore. and literally, Frank Robinson and Aparicio first in 64, and then after that, Frank in 65, they were sent here because they could not get along with their owner. They were malcontent. They were angry. They wanted they needed a fresh start, Dan. They needed to go work for another dealership. So it was one of those things, and it took me till I was 50 to understand that this week. So how about that? That one of the reasons the Orioles became so great was because Frank Robinson wanted more money in Cincinnati because he was great, and Luis Aparicio wanted more money in Chicago because he was great, and they were going to go to the Hall of Fame. And you wonder why Manny Machado's out on the market fighting right now, and Bryce Harper's fighting right now. It's because these guys had to fight back in the 60s, and the only way they could get dealt was to be so miserable as to be untenable because there was no free agency. They couldn't just leave. How about that?
Well, you know what? I think a lot of great things happen due to what is it called? Unintended consequences, right? Things, and there's a domino effect. But again, they always work out that they're supposed to. Frank Robinson and Luis Aparicio, they were supposed to be in Baltimore, right? And they were all part of this great big plan, and this is where we are, right? So that's a Zen thing. I brought my Buddhist. That's a very Zen thing to say that we're all here. I would think the same thing is true. I have relatives right now, and to bring a little more serious tone to this, because I want to be more serious. I want to have some wit and some wisdom and some humor too. But yeah, I have family in Venezuela right now trying to leave, right? I mean, because the country's falling apart. And I would say you probably had a situation in Greece where the people that left there didn't necessarily wake up and dream of leaving. They felt that there was a better place for them to go, or a safer place, or a more prosperous place, I guess, in the same way the settlers came across the plains here, right? And Manifest Destiny and all that. But I guess part of that is getting forced from one situation of discomfort, searching for something more comfortable, and whatever that pain makes it go. And I guess, in this case, Frank Robinson came here and created, a masterpiece for the franchise. Luis Aparicio came here. They were part of something that Brooks and Boog needed to win here. And Jim Palmer was a kid out in Arizona to come here. So it really is amazing all these years later when you think about it, and Frank Robinson passes, we start to talk about his life, his legacy. Man, he was only here 6 years. I mean, as a player, I went back on that. I'm like, wow, man, that's a pretty powerful 6 years. And I started to equate 6 years against, I don't know, Robbie Alomar or Rod Woodson or Ed Reed or John Ogden or any of the other great players we've ever had here. 6 years is not a lot of time. It's not, but they were very impactful years because that was also when Brooksy was on the team, and they would go back and forth trading homers. They had great competition between them and great chemistry. And you're talking about two of the best Hall of Famers of all time playing together. And that was just a great moment for that team. Although it was a short span, it was very impactful. First
baseball memory for you. What was it, Dan? I want to know this. We're gonna do love of baseball, and then one night, because of your Earl Campbell jersey, and that's going to be my next question because you unearthed that. But first things first. First time you knew about the Baltimore Orioles was when? Because that would probably tell you a lot about your era, right? Like I was 72-3 in that era, right? So 73 and 74, they went to the playoffs. My dad took me to a playoff game. I mean, I have vivid memories of 73, 74. That picture I put up of me and Luis Aparicio with the baseball when he was a Red Sox at that point, and on his fourth team. He was the White Sox sent him to Baltimore. Baltimore sent him back. Chicago took him back and said, we don't want him. They sent him to Boston. So, there's a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer got passed around like a hot potato. So,
Yeah, I wanted to say we got here from Greece in 1973, and I was 9 years old, and we didn't have any money. We lived in Baltimore City and watched baseball on TV, of course. But I'm going to tell you, it was 1977. We went to Memorial Stadium, and we watched Eddie Murray hit one out of the park, the game that I attended, and that was when I first got the baseball bug, and I actually played a little bit after I saw that happen. But it was 77.
Wow, so you had a completely We should sit. You should get on my couch. I should play Dr. Melfi one day, and we should
Yeah,
talk about this, man. I mean, we really should, because I think it really does speak to the roots of why we love sports, because I'm going to be asking tougher questions here in my Baltimore positive movement. Guys, I don't think I can sit here in April and May and June for the next several years and seriously discuss the baseball team as a going concern, right? Like, I don't. Let's check in on the farm. I don't, once the team is 13 and 26 or whatever, whatever it's going to be after opening day, and maybe they start the year 8 and 6 or something, and it's interesting for a little while, and maybe they have a couple of players we fall in love with, but the expectations, the bar is so low that this is the time in my life at 50 that I'm going to go get the box, and bring the box up here. My son found a 1971 World Series media kit in my mom's home. He's cleaning out. My mom passed a year and a half ago, and he brought it to. We went down to Pizza John's to have a pizza on Saturday, and he brought it to me. And I looked at it, and I've never seen it. And I think maybe John Stedman gave it to me, or maybe I acquired it at a baseball card show, or so, I don't know. But I Googled it. I can't find it. By the way, I never did find a picture of Frank Robinson and Luis Aparicio. I did not find one image, black and white, of color photo, of them together yucking it up, or a Topps sort of outtake. I didn't find anything, and that's what led me to the Milton Berle thing, which strangely enough. So, story full circle. Dennis Koulatsos here from Coons Florida Security Boulevard. I want to ask about the Earl Campbell thing, because I told you I'm going to clean my thing out, and I think part of this is like, it's a little woo-woo. You start to send me the Earl Campbell thing at the same time I'm doing a segment with Luke talking about, like, things. My son also, and I'm going to hold this up for you, and I want you to go into the tape of this, Den Online, okay? 16 minutes in. This is my championship wrestling ticket. My son also brought this to me. He found this. It's from December 27th, 1980. At the Baltimore Civic Center. I sat in Section 18, Upper Row C, Upper Concourse. Ticket was $4 that night, $12.27.80. And I'm thinking like Bob Backlund, maybe? It was still the champion then probably? It was probably right around Hulk Hogan, a little pre-Hulk Hogan era. But anyway, so I'm finding all of this cool stuff. And then all of a sudden you send me like this Earl Campbell thing that's sort of wrapped up. Like, I want the Earl Campbell jersey story because, and I'm going to get the picture up. You don't mind me sharing that picture, do you, Den?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah, okay. So you said you were moving stuff around, and there's your Earl Campbell jersey there. So tell me the Earl Campbell jersey story.
No, my good friend Robbie Davis heard me talking about it on air, and a couple of weeks later, I get a knock on the door, and boom, the UPS has a special delivery for me, and it's an autographed Earl Campbell jersey, just in a frame and everything else. And it was just, I almost fell over. Because
Robbie's a good man. I've been knowing him about 3 decades like you. I don't even sell cars, and I know Robbie,
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy, and you look, pristine condition, signed by the man. I wanted to take the jersey out of the frame and wear it around the house.
Man, that looks like bubble wrap. Can my bubble wrap, bring that over for the cat? Nala loves bubble wrap, so bring that over.
That'd be great for any therapy session. But I wore 34 when I played basketball, lacrosse, and football at Eastern Tech back in the day, and that was my jersey. And I played for 2 years at Towson, and that was my jersey number. And
do you think Len Bias wore 34 because of Earl Campbell?
You know what? And then Len Bias and I were both about exactly the same age. And I often wonder, never got a chance to talk to Len. We're on different planes back then, but the fact that Len Bias won 34 also, and so even today when I see a player on every team that wears 34, that becomes my guy. Especially when it's the Ravens, right? Because that jersey number does have special meaning to me personally.
Well, you know what? I get Walt Williams on the show all the time. Walt just wrote a big book on Len Bias. I'm going to ask him about that. I'm totally going to ask him that. So, Dennis Koulatsos here. What's going on, man? Ice and snow and ice and sleet and rain and then the 65 degrees one day and we're all hitting golf balls down at Compass Point. But, it's a little strange this time of year. I know we've had President's Day and Valentine's Day and all that. Tell me what's going on out there in February at Coons Florida Security Boulevard.
That's good stuff. We have a ton of inventory. We have a lot of technicians that we've been able to pick up. So business is very, very good. Business is brisk, and I don't listen too much about the experts out there talking about the economy, but our economy is good because we have a great customer base. I've been here 14 years now. We get a lot of repeat and referral business. A lot of great people that find us through different sources, including WNST. So we stay busy. Like a good friend of mine used to say, it's good business to do business where business is good.
Hey, I got a quick question for you. So you came into sports around 77, you said? So was it Colts or Orioles for you?
See, we came in 73, and right away I fell in love with the Colts.
So the Colts were first, and they kind of stunk pretty quickly after that, right?
Yeah, there was the Burt Jones era that I came into, but pro wrestling was a big thing for me back in 73 at our family because baseball was difficult to pick up as immigrants and I think still today that's why immigrants gravitate towards wrestling because you have a good guy, you have a bad guy, and then you just cheer for your favorite week in, week out. And that's why, every Saturday on UHF, whatever, Channel 45 it was, with the rabbit ears, with aluminum foil on the rabbit ears, we gather around a little 9-inch TV set, and we'd watch.
Has Gary Capetta ever done your show? Can I ask you that?
Never, no.
Oh,
Love to get him on.
Would you like to have Gary Capetta on?
Absolutely would.
I mean, now that I'm hearing this story, I didn't know, every time I bring him on, I do my best Gary Capetta. Do you want my Gary Capetta?
Absolutely. Bring me Gary Capetta.
I need to drink a little something. Hold on. Let me just get a sip of. Let me just get a sip of my coffee here. Hold on.
We can't get Mean Gene anymore, but maybe we can get Gary. All
right. So if Justin Tucker can sing opera out of the Royal Farms Cup, I can do my. All right. Ready? Welcome to another action-packed card of Championship Wrestling. These matches are sanctioned and supervised by the State Athletic Commission. How about that? Is that decent?
That was very good. That was spot on.
Well, Gary gives me a 9.5 on that. But, man, so you go back. You're Spiros Arion was your guy, right?
Yeah. He was great until he turned heel. Greek Nation was behind him. And we couldn't believe when he heel turned our Chief Jay Strongbow. I remember the day like it was yesterday. So I go back to the Valiant Brothers, Haystacks Calhoun, all those guys.
You know what I'm going to do?
74, 75.
I got to give a plug for my friends at Lifebridge Health Sports Medicine Institute and Dr. Craig Bennett. So I have a left arm issue. Can you picture this? They've given me this black, and I have not. I wore it one day on Radio Row in Atlanta, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I wore it one day with Luke because it helps my elbow, when I sleep. And I keep saying it's my Stan the Man Stasiak. Because some people don't get the Stan the Man Stasiak reference. Now that I know you get it, I'm going to wear it for every segment we do. It's going to become my new, because someone called it Stan's Lariat. And I'm like, no, that was Stan Hansen. That was not Stan Stasiak. You would know the difference.
Correct.
That would be like saying Blackjack Mulligan and Blackjack Lanza were the same guys, because they were not, right?
Yeah, no, you got to know the differences. You got to know the nuances, and that's when you know if somebody's a real fan or just a wannabe fan.
Truth be told, who were the executioners? Be honest with me.
Was it Killer Kowalski?
Of course, it was Killer Kowalski.
Who was the other guy?
Gas House Gilbert.
There you go. Killer Kowalski with the heart punch. You can't make this stuff up.
See, you talk wrestling with Luke, and just think that you think I'm not the kind of guy that's going to have a championship wrestling ticket from December 27th, 1980 in the Upper Concourse. By the way, free bowl of chili at Wendy's on the back, hot and juicy, hot and juicy. There's my free plug for Davco.
Speaking of Lifebridge Health, though, they're great people. I've been with Lifebridge for about 6 years now as an indoor cycling instructor. So I'm there 3 or 4 times a week in the morning. With a bunch of it's just a great organization, by the way.
Wow! Well, there's a free shout out for Neil Meltzer and our pals out there.
Absolutely.
I tell you what,
I'm the number 1 ranked indoor cycling instructor by far. So that's a fact.
So on a really hot day, can I come back and downwind you and cool off like a rock star?
Absolutely, you could. We're rolling, man. You got to get you in that class.
Appreciate you, brother.
In the morning.
All right, man. I'll let you come by and visit all my championship wrestling stuff. I have some programs. I have some old school stuff. So on the night that I do the wrestling night, I'm going to invite you by for that. I've got Luke coming down for an Oriole grab bag night, and I have a bunch of old Colt stuff and Raven stuff, but really old Colt stuff. By the way, the big wheel, Len Burrier, this is the reason I asked you about the Colts thing, was trying to unload a Marshall Johnson warm-up jersey from 1977-78 online, and I'm like, man, I love me some Marshall Johnson, number 80, right?
Yeah, and the wheel, he was a car guy, by the way. I knew him outside of sports and inside the car business. So he was always dabbling in cars.
Well, there you go. Well, he's got a Marshall Johnson jersey if you need one out, or a warm-up jacket. I said, hey, man, if you got something that fits me, you find something that Tony Linhart's laying around, I'll pick it up. Burna wanted, we'll do that. But, and then, like John Zeman, and now that there's no Sports Legend Museum, which really friggin' bums me out, that's going to get on my Baltimore positive bent, so I'll save that for later on. But I am going to have a night, Den, where I hope maybe you'll visit and Luke will visit, and we'll revisit some old school wrestling stuff and talk about Axel Rotten and Nikolai Volkov and anything else that comes to mind. How about that? Chief J. Strongbow. How about that?
Hey, that's awesome stuff. And one of my first blogs I ever wrote for WNST, you can Google it, it's still out there, was about the last time I took my father before he passed away, God rest his soul, in 2003 to watch Vader and Hulk Hogan at the arena, and we sat front row, he and I, ringside, and we just had a ball.
Share that today for me. I'm going to honor my father. My dad's birthday's March 5th, March 5. I'm going to be maybe doing a dad thing that day. I'm trying to develop what I want to do.
Mine was March 18th, and he passed away March 16th, right before his 73rd birthday.
See, now my paternal father was born on March 17th. My Nestor, my real father, was born on March 17th. So St. Patrick's Day in this country, in Ireland, and other places where they drink. Hey, man, relax, okay? It's the offseason. We're going to breathe a little bit here. We're going to give DeCosta some time. I know Bisciotti is just dying to get asked questions by people like me about how I can't give my PSLs away and how I ate $1,800 worth of tickets last year, and I'm looking for some level of accountability from ownership to answer some questions about the direction of the franchise. But I'm waiting patiently, Dan, and the minute that I hear that Steve Bisciotti's having that press conference, I'm going to get it out to everyone on the WNST tech service, brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. So I'm just letting you know that.
Oh, you know what? Luke and I went around a little bit on that the other day because at this point I don't want to hear from him. He still wants to hear from him. No,
that's dangerous, Dan. Don't lower the bar. Come on, man. No, don't lower the bar. Come on.
I tend to take the corporate look at it. He doesn't owe anybody an explanation for what he's doing. Not that I believe him anyway. Like you said, what's he going to say? He's going to say he thought about firing Harbaugh again when the team was 4-5.
Well, I mean, he doesn't say anything that foolish again, no, but I think at this point where the franchise is with the stadium half empty or half full, depending on how you look at it, I don't know, Dan. You stand out in front of your organization even when things, somehow a car gets sold with with a broken window. You have to stand out in front of it, right? You sell a car and the air condition somehow doesn't work first day of summer. Right? I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's
at a public meeting that I've never once told my staff that I thought about firing one of them. I think something we can learn from last year's press conference.
What was that show called? What not to wear?
What not to do, right? What not to do, what not to say, right? Sometimes you don't have the luxury of having that rewind button. You can take it back when you're in front of a bunch of different people.
Well, I promise you the radio's going to get crazier here over the next 6 months between you and I because we're not going to be able to talk about baseball. You have just said you're not holding the owner accountable. So you just lowered the bar.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
I don't care to hear from let's go. Tell me about the draft and who we have on the horizon and free agents and stuff like that. But we'll listen to what DeCosta has to say more so than that. And, even the luncheon they have, what's it called, the Liars Luncheon?
Yeah.
When their lips are moving, they're lying, so it doesn't matter.
So you're saying it's all like championship wrestling was back in 1980 when it was all predetermined. Is that what you're saying?
It is. It's just a show, right? It's not perception is stronger than reality. It doesn't matter what reality is what we perceive it to be.
How about that? I got a great story for you, Den, all right? And I'm going to leave you with this because I just thought of this. I was thinking about the first time Georgia Championship Wrestling came to the then Baltimore Civic Center. It might have been the Baltimore Arena by then. It is now the Royal Farms Arena, of course. And and I went that night. It was a big deal for me because I was a guy that went to Highlandtown to buy wrestling books, and I will do a longer total, throwdown on all of this, but I'm going to leave you with this. Because I'm going to find my Georgia wrestling ticket, and I have pictures. I was in a magazine. I'll find the picture. I was in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Bill Apter caught me in a picture. I think it's with this wrestler. Are you ready? A guard comes up to me and Luke on the day that DDP came by, right? And a guard comes up to me, big fella, Southern, and he says, "Hey, y'all wrestling fans, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. I mean, old school." He's like, "Man, I got a story for you." He said, "Were you old school like Gordon Soley, like Georgia Championship Wrestling?" And I'm like, "Man, Austin Idol, Junkyard Dog." Yeah, I got to hold on. Let me have a drink after that. Anyway, he said to me, "My uncle's Tommy Rich. Do you remember Tommy Rich?" I'm like, "Wildfire? Man. You got to be kidding me." Yeah. So this guy was Tommy Rich's nephew. And I said, "Well, you must be like in the Armstrong family, right? Weren't the Armstrong family?" Because I was just reading about the Armstrong. And he's like, yeah, my Uncle Jack. And I'm like, "Cool." And I said to Luke, this dude, Tommy Rich's nephew. And Luke jumped up. So you have to ask Luke for the rest of the story because I had to go back to work and I don't know, probably talk to, somebody. And but anyway, so we had wrestling stories because he overheard me talking about the Omni and telling like Starcade and whatever. He was hearing me tell those stories. So I want to hear all of your wrestling stories when I get all of my wrestling memorabilia out. I'm going to do that. And we're going to do that in the next month before it's a bad idea and it goes away. And I want to do it before WrestleMania because Luke and his brother want to go to WrestleMania big time, right? You know that.
Oh, absolutely. And I used to go down to the Civic Center twice a month. I'd watch the WWE and the NWA when they would come to town.
WWE, or was it still F? Or did they get the F out yet?
Actually, WWF. You're correct. WWF. But I watched 2 shows a month on the average, and you said tickets were cheap, $4 to $7. You could sit almost anywhere, and it was a good crowd.
$4.
They were very good shows, very entertaining.
What was your first? So by the way, the first time I ever went to the matches, Stan Stasiak was the opponent of Bruno, and Bruno lost the belt the next month. So I was there the night Bruno lost the belt. I got to find that ticket stub. April 30th, 1977. I'm a little bit like Mary Lou Henner. But what was your first match? Was it Bruno, Bobo, Haystacks? Was it that era, or did you not get there until Backlund was the champion?
No, I got there in the late 70s. I have to go back and think about the first match that I saw. It doesn't come to my mind right away, but it was late 70s.
Andre the Giant doing a battle royal in the summer, something like that?
Battle royals down there. I mean, we saw all the greats. My dad and I saw all the greats down there. Now, again, he thought it was real. He really believed it was real until the last time I took him and we sat ringside and he saw, the distance, how much sometimes these guys missed each other by. And he still loved it, but he was convinced. I mean, he used to cry, like when he used to watch a guy bleed. He would say, "Oh, the poor guy, his poor family." I'm like, "Dad, it's fake." Like,
you know what, man? We're going to do this. This night needs to have alcohol, or we need to get a bottle of wine, literally, and sit and tell these stories because I totally want to hear about it. Because anybody that knows and loves this era of wrestling, like you and Luke do, and my friend Kevin Eck, and so many of my friends growing up, John Rafferty, the Elliots, all my pals growing up, we were wrestling people, Charlie Kilgore. So telling some stories and busting out some old mementos, I'm more than willing to do that with you. So I'm looking forward to it. I got a million of them.
Likewise. Sound like fun.
All right, there he goes. Dennis Koulatsos, Coons Ford Security Boulevard. You can hear him on Thursday, 3 until 5. It is the SV on WNST. It has been, a little bit of a busy week with the comings and goings in spring training and the Terps. Ravens trying to figure out what their direction as we sort of soften into the beginning of the tampering period before the combine, which I'm skipping this year, I think, because it's in Indianapolis. That's why. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.